That's not the right view, is it? Let's have a look. There we are. Good morning. You can tell I'm out of practice. Good morning, everyone. How the devil are you doing? My apologies for yesterday. The more I travel internationally, the less I want to travel internationally. What a couple of days. Oh, what I would say is I actually went to see an all-electric demolition site with Volvo and Husqvarna, and I'll come on to them in just a moment. The trip itself, the actual seeing the equipment in action, seeing an all-electric demolition site, and when I say all-electric, I mean there were electric machines working in the building during the strip out. There were electric machines taking down the building. There were electric machines taking care of the crushing, recycling, and even electric trucks hauling away steel. The thing was entirely electric, incredibly impressive. I will tell you about it more afterwards. But getting there and getting back, oh boy. Yeah, I at one point yesterday, and I've actually written about this, and I'll tell you about it in a second. At one point yesterday, when I was sat in the reception of a hotel where I'd been forced to stay because I couldn't get my flight home, myself and Fred had been booked on 5 different flights over the course of 2 days, and only one of them had actually delivered us to where we needed to be. 1 out of 5. It's not a good batting average, is it? Really isn't. I'm going to say good morning to Garvin and Mostly Diggers. Good morning to Mr. Clips of East, our friend Rick. Good morning to Mark Whiting. Good morning to Gary Muirhead. And thank you very much indeed for that. Welcome back. Thank you very much indeed. I think Dan Cullen is here. Ken Hatter has given us the weather report down in Welsh Wales. Looks like he's got a bit of a mixed bag. That looks like a pretty good day, actually. Not bad at all. And I did see Dan here somewhere earlier on. Now, because of my absence, things have got a little bit backed up. So, first of all, I will, if you're on our WhatsApp group, I will send you details of how to read about my travels. Won't bore you with it here. In addition to that, we've launched a new video podcast today. Those of you that are here with any regularity will recall a guy called VJ Nerva. Used to work with Bobcat. He now works for himself, basically. He has formed a new company called Backbone, Bakbone, Backbone AI, and he is looking to revolutionize, which is a bold claim, but revolutionize construction equipment management. His new website, Backbone AI, as I say, Bakbone.ai, actually allows you can go there now. I'd rather you wait until the end of the show, but you can go there now and you can actually interact with the AI. You can speak to it or you can type to it and you can ask it questions and get to know what it's all about. We've done about a half an hour podcast with VJ. We recorded it last week and it was supposed to come out yesterday, but I couldn't press the button because the button's here and I was there. Yeah, you get the idea. So that is available today. If you follow me on LinkedIn, you can see it there. Don't worry if you don't. I'll post it up on, and it's already on demolitionnews.com. It's in a variety of other places as well. So that's coming as well, or it's already there, actually. In addition to that, and there's lots of in additions, today is the 4th of July, which means not a great deal to us here in the UK, but to our friends in America, a mighty big deal. Obviously, it is Independence Day, so happy Independence Day to all of our American viewers who will be coming online fairly soon. I've actually written an article called State of Independence. And it is talking about, well, I mean, it's time to coincide with Independence Day, but it's actually talking about independent media and the importance thereof in the age of Mr. Trump and the like. That'll be coming out around about 2:30 this afternoon. Don't worry, WhatsApp, I'll send you the details. And if you've been watching the preview, you will know that we actually have something going on today when I can find it. Let's have a look. It's here somewhere. There. Now, see, I've come back from Germany with a new hat from Husqvarna, demolition robot people. And that hat is up for grabs. So, nice and easy. All you need to do is type in the chat Husqvarna's country of origin. They come from a country. Like we all do. They come from a country. I just need you to type into the chat where in the world they come from. Just the name of the country. Nothing more. There is there's a thing going on in the background which you can't see. That will be logging your entries. And only those that have got the answer right will go into the prize draw. At the end of the show, we will hit the prize draw button. It'll do its thing, and it will spit out a winner. So if you fancy winning yourself a nice Husqvarna hat, I'm not going to say it's exclusive, but I don't suppose there's too many of those around. Hit the button. Just type into the chat where Husqvarna are from. I'm going to keep that banner playing for a wee bit. I can tell you we've already had at least one entry, and I can tell that person, Chris Ford, you're right. So on the basis of the chat, let's go back here. Dan, you're right, but I need the name of the country, because if you don't put the name of the country, your entry won't qualify. Who do we have? There's Gary Muirhead saying, welcome back, Mark. Thank you very much indeed, Gary. And thank you for your question of the day today. Incredibly well timed, which I'll explain in just a moment. Mark Whiting is here as well. Morning, Mark. How are you doing, my friend? Chris Ford is here. Chris, I owe you an apology. I don't know quite what was going on, but I did schedule yesterday's show for 10 o'clock in the evening, which was obviously nonsense. Didn't matter, as it turns out, because I wasn't there anyway. But you get the idea. My apologies for that. There's Dan Cullen. How are you all doing? There's Jim Turner. Morning, peeps. Morning, Jim. How are you, my friend? And yes, Dan Cullen. Dan Cullen. Well, I mean, today's question of the day, when we come to it, will be very appropriate for you. Dan came across a rabbit on site, and I saw him hugging said rabbit, which is a lovely thing to see. But is he actually living in the cab of your machine now? Is that what's going on? How are you feeding it? What does it eat? Does it have a name? We need more information, Dan. Dr. Yvonne Waterman just joined us. Morning, Yvonne. How are you? Lovely to see you here, as always. Yes, don't forget, where a Husqvarna from, the country, put it in the chat. You'll be entered into the prize draw. I think, let's have a very quick look. We have 3 correct entries so far, so keep those coming, because I'll be drawing that a bit later in the show. But without further ado, let me roll the intro, post the question of the day, and get this show, where it belongs, on the road. I'll come to the show in just a moment. I promise I will do that. But Ken Hatcher, well done on entering the prize draw. You are correct, sir. Let me have a look. What have we got? We now have 4 correct entries, so it's up for grabs. Dan Cullen says he takes the rabbit every day. He's named it Thumper. How much thought did you put in that? How much thought did you put into that? And some milk, ghost milk. Is that oat milk? Drill? What is drill? And carrot leaves. What is this weird diet you've got Thumper on, Dan? And where did you get it from? But hey, listen, he looks happy enough. He does look happy enough. It is Friday the 4th of July, as I've already said. Happy Independence Day to all our American viewers. Given the state of the UK nation at the moment, I don't blame you one bit for jumping ship. I'm going to explain it one more time, Yvonne. You're right. Your answer is right, but you have to type the actual name of the country, because otherwise it won't register. And apparently those drill leaves that Dan was talking about, they're actually dill. I bet he smells fantastic. Love the smell of dill. Anyway, it is Friday the 4th of July. I've done that bit. Welcome to the Breakfast Show. I am your host, Mark Anthony, the Walrus of Demolition, the Lord High Chancellor of live streaming. And in today's show, the Caterpillar 980 wheel loader, simplified. Venieri Equipment spearheads a landslide cleanup operation. Case gets tooled up. And as it's Friday, something a little bit different. We're going to take you on a whistle-stop tour of the Lamborghini factory, which is where I was a couple of weeks ago. So keep an eye out for that. Plus, in my morning monologue, this is a morning monologue with 2 titles. The official title is Electric Demolition is Here. The other title is The Not Entirely True Story of How Volvo Construction Equipment Has a Quiet Campaign to Make Me Look Foolish While Revolutionizing the Demolition Sector. Doesn't exactly trip off the tongue, but there's some truth to it. Plus, as I've already said, you could be the winner of said hat there. And I can tell you, entries are now up to 5 because Yvonne Waterman, or Dr. Yvonne Waterman, has just thrown, pardon the pun, she's just thrown her hat into the ring and she has the right answer as well. So keep those coming in. There is no mystery machine today, but we do have a question of the day, which I should have already posted actually, and failed to do so. So let me do that now. I'm hoping that's the right one. Yes, there it is. And even though I've only just shown it to you, I'm going to remind you of it right away. Yeah, our question of the day today comes once again from Mr. Gary Muirhead, and his question, frankly, is incredibly well timed. If you could speak to animals, Dan Cullen, I'm looking at you, what would you say to them? And I said this is incredibly well timed, and it is for me at least. The night before I was due to fly to Germany, we had to say goodbye to our loyal old boxer dog, Diesel. We rescued him and his sister when they were just under a year old, and he was 14 when he finally passed away. Obviously, we're all missing him enormously. He's been ever present in our lives for the last 13 years, and between the two of them, they basically got this whole family through COVID. Obviously confined to barracks as we were. They were our excuse to go out and walk around the block and see neighbours at a distance and that kind of thing. So obviously we're missing him, but his sister Echo is probably missing him even more than we are. So if I could speak to animals, personally, I'd just like to make sure she's okay. Just ask her, are you okay? How are you doing? But what about you? If you could speak to animals, what would you be saying right about now? Jim Turner says, the rabbit population has exploded. I need to start thinning them out when the nights start drawing in. Don't say that in front of Dan. Dan is very protective of Thumper, at least. Question today, do you see the clowns I'm working with? I asked Thumper this. Yeah, I must admit, I do often talk to the dog, or dogs, but up until recently dogs, but I do now still speak to the dog to discuss the people that we have to endure. I do that quite a bit, so I fully understand where you're coming from on that, Dan. Don't forget, please keep the entries coming if you've just joined us. And just bearing in mind, I forgot to say this, if you would like to be in with a chance of winning this Husqvarna hat, you need to type into the chat the country of origin of Husqvarna. But it only works on LinkedIn, on YouTube, on Facebook, and on Twitch. Doesn't work on Instagram. So if you would like to, if you're watching on Instagram and you would like to enter, you need to hop over to the live stream elsewhere. That's just how it works, I'm afraid. Anywho, we are 15 minutes in, and it's about time we started the show. So I'll be right back after this with Caterpillar. Yes, we all know Caterpillar. We all know the Cat 980 wheel loader. Superb machine. But there are some applications where you need a kind of a simpler version, or GC version, for example. Well, you can now get that like this. Yeah, now going straight over to the chat. Dan Cullen says, I often wonder why they never have raised cabs on shovels when loading trucks. Good point. It wasn't a shovel, it was a materials handler, which I'll be talking about a bit later on in the show. But yeah, absolutely. Although on the GC version, it's the simplified version, so probably a bit complex for that, but take your point. Chris Ford reckons that Dan is feeding up the rabbit or that's Thumper, for rabbit pie. And how about this for a weird coincidence? Ken Hatcher said, funny thing is, I'm looking after Thumper this weekend, the girl next door's big rabbit. Nothing to do with the Ann Summers shop, Ken. I think we probably need to clarify that. Chris Ford says, if he could talk to animals, he would tell his dog not to crap in the field. Oh, no, tell his dog to crap in the field rather than the kennel. That's what walks are for. It is. There's lots of other things I'd like to tell dogs as well, but I must admit, I do prefer talking to dogs than people generally anyway, but that's a whole other story. We're going off to Italy with Venieri. First of 2 trips to Italy, actually. Back after this.
If you are enjoying this episode, please consider supporting the show. You can leave us a tip at buymeacoffee.com/demolition news.
We're up to 6 entries, I think, or 6 winning entries anyway, on our prize draw. That's what is up for grabs. It is a Husqvarna hat. Just type into the chat where in the world Husqvarna are from. Don't need to be too specific, just need a country. That is all we need. What do we got here? Ken clarifies and says, no, a rabbit, a real rabbit. And Jim Turner says, mains or battery version, Ken. Yeah, see, it's that Ann Summers have stolen the language. They've stolen the language. Anyway, let me take away that banner because I want you to see the next film in all its glory, because we are going to a landslide cleanup in Italy with the fine folks at Venieri. I just wish there was a film that showed how that machine had got up there. Awesome stuff. Well done to Venieri. Back to the chat. Where are we? There's the chat. Gary Muirhead says, my wife's got a rabbit, but she feeds it on AA batteries, says the poor, redundant Mr. Muirhead. And Chris Ford, I was waiting for that one. Yeah, so was I. I knew somebody would. Yes, don't forget, we're 2/3 of the way through the main part of the show. So if you haven't entered already, please do so. Just do that thing across the bottom. If you'd like to win that hat, type in the chat the name of the country from which Husqvarna originates. We'll be right back after this. We're getting tooled up with case.
Since the finance bill came into effect in April, the construction industry has seen a surge of fuel thefts. The rising cost of living has placed an additional risk of theft by employees and contractors, as well as opportunistic thieves. By using diesel dye and placing warnings of its use, you are sending a clear message that this is your fuel.
Yeah, modern equipment is obviously, with the actual base machines themselves, are basically tool carriers. That's what they do. And they need a variety of tools. If you need a variety of tools, case of you're covered. Take a look at this lot. Before anybody else says it, love the tune. Love the tune. That was awesome. Well done, Case. I wonder if that Arctic backhoe is as unstable as a JCB one was. I wouldn't like to comment on that, Chris, but thank you very much indeed for that. The competition is going well. We have 6 correct entries so far. That's what we're playing with at the moment. Where are we? Yeah, we're actually going to Italy in a moment. I realise this is mainly about the show is mainly about demolition and construction equipment and stuff. But we're going to take a bit of a detour because it is Friday, and I think we all deserve it, and because it's quite a good fun one. Back after this with Lamborghini. Okay, the final film of today is 4 minutes and 5 seconds long, which is precisely how long you have left to enter today's competition to win that hat. That hat is up for grabs. The details are across the bottom of the screen. Now, as this is my video, I'm going to leave the banner running because I don't care if it obscures our Lamborghini film. So anyway, cut a long story short, my EVA study tour to Italy took in various places. We started out in Milan, went to Bergamo, and then we went on to somewhere else. Modena, I think. And Modena, we took in Mantovani Beni. Good morning to the fine folks at Mantovani Beni. But while we were up the road, we decided to call in on the Lamborghini factory, and more specifically, we couldn't film in the factory itself. They're very sensitive about that, but they did allow us to film in the museum. So sit back and admire the lunacy. The increasing lunacy. When you see this film, I start at the earliest car, which is beautiful and elegant and fantastic, and the cars get more and more mental as this film goes on. Sit back, enjoy this. that was a good day out, I have to say. And I'm not even a petrol head, but some fantastic cars there. As I say, the older ones were the better ones, in my opinion. But and Dan Cullen agrees. The older ones were beautiful. Yeah, they just get more and more crazy. Love the color scheme as well. That green one in real life, that green thing burns your retinas. It really does. Anyway, people, that's about it for the main part of this morning's show. It's also that's it for the week as well. My apologies again about my prolonged absence this week. Beyond my control. That's all I can say. I'm going to tell you a bit the upside of the trip in just a moment, but I'm going to roll the outro in just a second before leaping gazelle-like over into my morning monologue, the last one of the week. If you can't stick around for that, please stay safe. Look after yourself, your friends, your family, and your colleagues. Hope to see you again very, very soon. But if you do have the time and the inclination, please stick around because I'd like to tell you about electric demolition because I've seen it, it works, it's awesome, and it proves me to be completely stupid. I'll be back after this. Now, I do need to do the prize draw of today's prize draw. Good grief. There you are. That is the correct answer. That is the answer we've been looking for. Obviously, Husqvarna are indeed from Sweden, as everybody correctly guessed. So let me roll the thing and see who gets the hat. Bear with me 1 second. Here we go. Chris Ford has won. Now that kind of confuses things just a little bit because he said before we did that, there we are. If I win, send the hat to Jim. Jim, you have just been donated a hat from Mr. Ford. I will need your address, or you'll need to remind me of it, but I will be sending that to you. You are the proud owner of a brand new Husqvarna hat, all the way from Sweden, but via Germany, and a tortuous journey home. I won't bore you with the details. Dr. Yvonne Waterman says, mental or not, I'd be thrilled to ride in any of those cars. So would I. Not sure I'd want to drive one, though. Not sure my driving ability is up to the job. And Gary Muirhead says, well done, Mr. Ford. Yes, well done. And it's been so long since we actually did a prize draw, I'd completely forgotten the fact that people do donate their prizes. Yeah, what a fine bunch you are. What a fine bunch you are. Anyway, I have promised you a morning monologue, and a morning monologue you shall jolly well have. The official title of today's morning monologue is Electric Demolition is Here. But this one also has a subtitle. That subtitle is The Not Entirely True Story of Volvo Construction Equipment's Quiet Campaign to Make Me Look Foolish while revolutionizing the demolition sector. Allow me to explain. I am starting to believe that Volvo Construction Equipment now exists, at least in part, to disprove my industry preconceptions. I know that sounds unlikely, but they're proving me wrong with such regularity, it's now starting to feel like a personal vendetta. When electric equipment first burst onto the industry scene, I predicted that battery electric machines would be viable up to an operating weight of about 10 tons. Volvo subsequently, pointedly, and seemingly out of spite, then unveiled the electric-powered ECR 230 excavator that weighs in at some 24 tons. Not content with that, the company then took its popular L180 and converted it from traditional diesel to battery electric. And then to rub more salt into my open wound, Volvo showed off a 30-ton class articulated hauler at Bauma earlier this year, again with a battery pack where the diesel engine once belonged. They were right. I was wrong. I've written about and spoken about equipment electrification at length, and I've long claimed that while it's suitable for mining and quarrying and some specific applications in construction, the adoption of electric machines in the demolition industry remained a long way off, with innumerable obstacles still to overcome before we might see the first all-electric demolition site. Yet I've just returned from Erlangen in Germany, where Volvo has accomplished precisely that. A demolition site that was electric during the strip-out phase, electric through the structural demolition phase, and electric during the recycling phase as well. Even the haulage of scrap metal from the site is being conducted by electric-powered Volvo road trucks. They were right, again, and I was wrong, again. And all of this was made possible as Volvo disproved yet another of my misplaced assumptions. In the field of mining, major OEMs like Caterpillar and Komatsu regularly work in partnership with mine operators to jointly develop electric or hydrogen equipment. Most recently, Liebherr partnered with Australia's Fortescue Mining to produce the hydrogen-fueled, autonomously operated T264 mine hauler. Such a development partnership could never happen in the demolition space, I insisted. Demolition contractors tend to buy their main line equipment in ones or sometimes twos, and each machine tends to be entirely unique or highly specialized, unlike Fortescue Mining, which is committed to buying 300 plus identical trucks. Working in partnership with a demolition company was just not economically viable. Or so I thought. Yet the world's first all-electric demolition site is an example of precisely that kind of forward-thinking collaboration. Echoing Volvo's mantra of partnership is the new leadership, the site in Erlangen near Nuremberg was made possible by a coming together of a client, a contractor, an equipment dealer, and several equipment manufacturers, including both Volvo and their fellow Swedes, Husqvarna. They were right, and henceforth I will make no more predictions because, frankly, it's getting embarrassing now. A few months ago, Volvo Construction Equipment hosted a Demolition Days event at its headquarters in Eskilstuna, Sweden. You might remember, because I was there. But while I was fanboying over the latest Volvo demolition excavators, whispered conversations were taking place. Conversations that would ultimately deliver the world's first all-electric demolition site. Michael Metzner of Metzner Recycling was also in attendance. And Volvo's stated ambition to be a zero-emissions manufacturer by 2040 inspired him. He saw the potential of an all-electric demolition equipment fleet for urban areas and sites with very specific environmental plans. And he found one such project on the Erlangen campus of electronics giant Siemens. Siemens had expansion plans for an area of... Read that bit again. Siemens had an expansion plan for an area of its motion control facility that required a portion of the existing buildings to be demolished down to slab level. According to a Siemens spokesman, that project was earmarked to be net zero by default. Emissions were not just verboten, they weren't even part of the discussion. And this proved to be the test case for Siemens, Metzner Recycling, Volvo Construction Equipment, and for the company's German dealer, Robert Abbe. Together, they drew up a plan to utilize a grid-powered Volvo EW240 materials handler as the primary demolition machine, a battery-electric ECR 230 to tackle the recycling and crusher loading duties, and an L120 wheel loader cleaning up around the crusher. A battery-electric Volvo mini excavator was also deployed within the building during the strip-out phase, assisted by a pair of Husqvarna electric-powered demolition robots. And it all worked seamlessly. Although Michael Metzner said that he would normally have deployed a 60 to 70 ton class excavator on the primary demolition, the much smaller EW240 was proving more than adequate. In fact, by optimizing the attachments available to the operator via the oil quick coupler, he had noticed no significant loss of production. Of course, being grid-powered, the materials handler can work continuously throughout the day without concerns over recharging. The machine's elevating cab was a bonus, affording the operator an uninterrupted view of the pulverizer attachment during demolition and down into the skip when the machine was loading out scrap. The ECR 230 and the L120 require charging, of course, but the stop-start nature of crusher loading and crusher cleanup kind of lends itself to regular charging. Now, unquestionably, the planets aligned to make this project happen. And Volvo is keen to stress that this is currently a test case. All the Volvo equipment was supplied on a rental basis rather than as an outright purchase. The meeting between Volvo and Metzner Recycling was fortuitous, and it's unlikely that either of them will find a client as accommodating and environmentally focused as Siemens anytime soon. So is this the shape of things to come? Have I just seen the demolition site of the future? Possibly. But you'll have to make up your own mind because thanks to Volvo, I am officially out of the predictions business. Now, on that, I'll come back to the chat in just a moment. On that subject, I'm going to take that thing that I've done there. Obviously, we filmed the electric demolition site, but because we got back so late yesterday, I haven't had a chance to actually pull that off the drone and off the cameras as well. So by the time this goes up onto YouTube later today, there will be actual footage of that demolition site in there. Have a look. It worked. It worked despite all my suggestions and protestations about the future of electric demolition, as is so often the case. I was wrong. They were right. Now, back to the chat very quickly. Jim Turner says, thanks for that, Chris, but I only wear fast caps nowadays. Is that fast or is that flat? If it's fast, what in the blue hell is a fast cap? I don't know. But Chris, it looks like you instead are the owner of a Husqvarna hat. I've probably got your postal address here somewhere. Figure it out amongst yourselves. Tell me where you need it to be sent. Now, I do need to do a very quick recap on all the stuff, what is coming up. So if you go over to demolitionnews.com today, you will see we've done this exclusive interview with VJ Nerva, who used to be with Bobcat, and he isn't any longer. He has formed his own company called Backbone AI, and he is looking to basically revolutionize construction equipment management and agricultural equipment management, Jim. So if you're interested in that kind of thing, have a look at that. You can also go over to Backbone AI, Backbone, and you can try out the AI for yourself. You can talk to it. You can just fire it up and talk to it and see what you make of that. Jim has clarified he is into flat caps as instead of baseball caps. Each to their own. I do both. Australia West Demolition or Ost-West Demolition just joined us over on Instagram. Good day. I'm guessing you're in Australia and not Austria, but good morning, good day, good afternoon, evening. I don't know. So yes, we've got that. So there's the VJ Nerva interview is available on Spotify. It's on YouTube. It's on demolitionnews.com. If you fancy, there won't be a recap after today's show. So if you do want something to listen to this afternoon or over the weekend, maybe that would be a good way to go forward. There's my travel thing, which is called Stranded: The Ugly Truth of Modern Business Travel. You can read that. That's. I'll send you the link in the WhatsApp group. Later today, we've got my article State of Independence, which is time to coincide with Independence Day, which is happening today. It is the 4th of July. But I'm talking effectively about independent journalism, mine and others. So if you fancy reading that, you can do that. Let's have a look. Dan says, I can't see why the UK don't try this. Why is the UK always slow on picking this up? Funnily enough, we've got a video for you on Monday that shows we're not necessarily that slow. I could have done it today, but it's a Volvo-related video. And I didn't want to do Volvo back to back because, it becomes the Volvo fanboy show then, which I'm perfectly comfortable with. But I just thought I'd break it up. So tune in on Monday, Dan. I'm pretty sure you win anyway. Bring the thumper along for a chat, because we will be talking about zero emissions in the UK. He also says, be good in urban areas where there's plenty of sources. Yeah, and again, when you'll see it on the video, but when we visited this Siemens campus, vast, huge place. And yes, they have their own transformer. They have grid power. So a big cable up the back end of the materials handler, and Bob's your uncle, you're good to go. Interestingly enough, you'll see on the video again, feel like I should have had the video ready, but I was back a day late. So what you going to do? The company they had an oil quick, and they had 4 or 5 attachments. I can't remember. Maybe 5, all from the Swiss manufacturer, and I've never heard of them before, so I don't actually know how to pronounce their name. Egli, never heard. EGLI, never heard of them before, but the attachments, the proper job, and they were working very, very well indeed. There was a big crusher there, Kleeman, again. Electric powered. The ECR 230 was loading that. battery electric, and there was the L120 that was doing the clean up around the place, also battery electric, and it all seemed to work really, really well. As Volvo said, and I would point out, this was the day that the planets aligned. They had obviously the meeting between Volvo and Metzner was well timed. The fact that Metzner then won the contract with Siemens was well timed. The fact that Siemens were looking for a by default zero emission site, that helped. But everything just came together. It has the potential. It has the potential. I do think, I know I was being self-deprecating about my inability to predict things. I do think some of my concerns over electric still exist. The need to recharge on a regular basis and all those kind of things. But on occasions where, as I said, the planets aligned on this one, it works supremely well. It really does work supremely well. Look out, because Fred will be working. He's playing golf today, but he'll be working on a full-length video over the weekend, I would imagine. So we'll be bringing that to you a little bit later. Well, next week. Somebody over on Instagram has just asked, "Where are you from?" I am from the UK. I'm just outside London. I don't know where you are in the world, but thank you very much indeed for the question. Let us know. N1 Eva 19. Is that Neva 19? Neva 19? I don't know, but wherever you're from, let us know. But we're in the UK. It would be great for top down. Yeah, potentially. Yeah, potentially. I mean, I guess battery electric, yes, maybe. One thing that did strike me, and it's interesting that you mentioned top down there. If you remember rightly, we went to, me and Fred went to Milan to look at the top-down way on that hotel project with Death's Bay, I don't know, last year or thereabouts. You might remember, as well as enclosing the top of the building to protect the public from falling debris and that kind of thing, the entire thing is self-contained, so nobody can fall off the edge and everything else. So very, very safe, very well contained and everything else. But there's another point. Top-down way is pre-fitted with services. So it has access to industrial gases for cutting and stuff. It has access to water for dust suppression. And it has basically its own electricity. If you were that way inclined, you could put electric mini excavators on a top-down building using the top-down way, and you could power that thing all the way down. Big cable up the back end. Stefano Panseri and Roberto Panseri, you guys are way smarter than me. I'm sure you've already thought of that, but that is very much a possibility. The other thing that struck me about this, I'm convinced that the thing that will drive us towards electric everything, but electric demolitions specifically, is legislation. I think if somebody decided to change the rules and regulations and insist that demolition were required on specific jobs or specific locations, I think that would prompt us to do it. But I think there's another point, and I think the Siemens example was a good one. Siemens, the comment actually struck me so much so that I wrote it down. Zero emissions by default. It wasn't a case of we've got a demolition and a construction project. How can we minimize the emissions? How can we reduce the emissions? How can we prevent the emissions? From day one, it was there will be no emissions. There will be none. Let's not even talk about it. There will be none. And that's precisely what they've done. Siemens, I think, is an exception. I mean, they're an exceptional company anyway, but they are an exception. But when you think about all of the credits, the environmental credits that are available to demolition contractors and construction companies as well, if you really wanted to start an ongoing project, taking down a building and then putting something in its place, and you wanted to set the environmental standard, it is now possible. You could bring that down to, you could bring a structure down to slab level, hand it over, clean, zero carbon, and then you've now set the tone, and it is now down to the steel workers and the construction workers and the ground workers and everybody else to then maintain that. Imagine the PR from that. If you're a major developer and you can say we can demolish this old building here that is past its sell by date, it's no longer fit for purpose, and we can demolish it and put something in its place, and we will not generate carbon emissions throughout. It kind of balances out the whole embodied carbon thing. Oh, we can't take down that building because we'll be releasing all that, or we'll be losing all that embodied carbon that we put into building it and maintaining it and everything else. What about if we could do it without creating any more emissions? Interesting, right? It'd be quiet and fumes free in the building. Yeah, interestingly enough, early doors on the project that we went to see, they had I haven't got my notes in front of me, but they had a Volvo mini excavator, electric, go inside the building, and it was basically there to do a few specific jobs. And I think the original idea was that the Husqvarna robots were going to do the primary sort of demolition within. But once the operator got to grips with the Volvo mini excavator, that started to do some of the strip out work. So once again, zero emissions. As Dan has rightly said, fumes free, noise free. Do you know one of the funniest things? And you'll see it on the video. I'll ask Fred to leave some of the sound in, or I'll use my video and I'll play it to you. One of the strangest things is being stood alongside a machine doing demolition. And yes, an electric machine kind of hums, a bit of a background hum, but you can only actually hear the crunching of concrete. There's no backdrop of engine noise and that feeling of increased revs as a machine does a bit of hard work or whatever. None of that. There's just this gentle hum, and all you can hear is the munchy crunchy of the concrete. Really does. It doesn't make demolition silent, because you're crunching concrete and cutting steel, and then you're dropping that steel into big metal bins, and it makes a noise. But in terms of emissions, noise, dust, and everything else, Dan says, guys, have a fantastic weekend. I'll be spoiling Thumper and going to the vets for a checkup tomorrow. You're going to the vets for a checkup, or Thumper's going to the vets for a checkup? Well, either way, I've got to be honest, not the biggest fan of vets at the moment. They treated our boy very, very kindly, but to go into a vet with a lovely old dog and to leave with his collar never gets any easier. That's the fourth time I've done it in my adult life, and it never gets any easier. But I don't want to end today on a low. I will end on a high. Loads of stuff to come. As I say, we've got a packed program for you next weekend. And Dan says, stay safe. And Ken, mind that rabbit. You might get an electric shock. Well played, Dan. Yeah, I'm going to love you and leave you. Have a fantastic weekend, everybody. Come back on Monday, refreshed, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, because we've got a whole bunch of other stuff. But do keep an eye out on Demolition News. Also keep a watchful eye on the WhatsApp group today, because I will be sending you lots and lots of other stuff to go and read, listen to, watch. Gary, Dan, rabbit makes a lovely stew. It does. It does. Last time I ate rabbit was in Bergamo. Not this time before. I went with my other half and went to there's an old city called the part of the old town called the Città Alta, up the funicular railway. There's a restaurant there that does polenta with rabbit. Dan, I know you're a veggie, so I'm not going to dwell on it, but trust me, you ever get a chance to eat rabbit and polenta, you have my personal recommendation. People, go and have a fantastic weekend rather. I'm going to try and recover from my exertions over the past 3 days. And if you'd like to read about all of that, watch the WhatsApp group. Till then, everybody, have a great weekend. Thank you very much indeed for joining me. Thank you for your patience during my absence. But we have full, excuse me. We have a full program next week. Everything allowing, I'll be here all 5 days next week. So hope to see you then. Till then, everybody, have a fantastic day. See you soon. Bye.